Delhi and the national capital region of India woke up to a thick blanket of smog this morning. The air quality plunged to hazardous levels, with some areas recording a 999 AQI. According to officials, Delhi recorded the worst air quality of the year this morning. The air quality slipped drastically after residents of India's Delhi NCR region continued to burst crackers long after the deadline set by the Indian Supreme Court for Diwali evening. Water sprinklers were brought in this morning to check the rising pollution levels of the capital city. As of 4 p.m. this evening, the average air quality index of Delhi stood at 390. Air quality of the other satellite cities of the region was even worse. AQI for Noida was 432. Faridabad recorded an AQI of 455. Remember, when it comes to air quality index, anything above 301 is considered very poor and hazardous. A hazardous air quality level signifies a state of emergency. Almost everyone breathing this air is likely to be affected.
We are near the Patparganj area of New Delhi, and here the pollution levels have reached around 999 ppm. It implies that even the machines are not able to record the higher level of pollutions, and the pollution level has crossed all the levels. Here behind me is the temple, which is just 50 to 60 meters away from us, but the visibility is so less that to see the entire temple is a problem. Here the entire area is covered with thick smog, and the reason behind it is the increased pollution level. Yesterday it was Diwali, and the Supreme Court of India came up with the order to burst firecrackers between 8 till 10 p.m. However, many people did not really follow the orders, and this is the reason today the pollution levels have increased in all the areas of New Delhi, especially in eastern Delhi where we are near the Patparganj. The pollution levels are so high that doctors have said that people should not be really coming out, because for children, for elderly, and even for the healthy people, this is not a good moment for their lungs. With video journalist Sujoy in New Delhi, Nagen Singh for WION, World is One.
The situation is not unprecedented. Every year, the air quality in Delhi dips drastically following Diwali celebrations. This toxic smog often lingers on for days owing to the low wind speed. Last month, the Indian Supreme Court had set a 2-hour window for bursting crackers on Wednesday. The time frame was 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. and it was grievously violated. Meanwhile, the Delhi police said that legal action would be taken against all those who violated the Supreme Court order. And away from the toxic air of Delhi, European countries have been taking a number of steps to curb pollution. WION Sumit Chaturvedi is in Milan, and he sent us this report.
The cities of Milan and Turin in northern Italy faced one of the worst possible pollution situation last December, and they handled it by banning the plying of petrol and diesel cars in many parts of the cities. In fact, in these parts of Milan, only Euro 5 cars were allowed. Europe has become conscious about the ill effects of pollution, especially after the Volkswagen scandal broke in 2015. Now, analysts say that by cutting down on pollution, Europe can save $700 billion by 2025. In fact, cities across Europe are taking many measures so that pollution can be brought down. Berlin itself has cut down pollution levels by stopping use of petrol and diesel cars in many areas across city. City of Paris will only allow electric cars in certain areas by 2030 only. So clearly, a lot is at stake in Europe, and they now know about it. This is Sumit Chaturvedi signing off from Milan for WION, World is One.
From partially banning fireworks to setting the time limit on bursting crackers, the Indian top court issued guidelines on almost every aspect of the festival. But unfortunately, none were followed. Last month, the Supreme Court had allowed burning of crackers from 8 p.m. to 10 p.m. But in many areas, people continued bursting crackers much before and after the designated 2-hour period. The top court had also restricted burning of conventional crackers and allowed only green crackers. However, no green crackers were available in the market. This is not the first time that the Supreme Court's order has not been followed or implemented. Take, for example, Supreme Court's verdict on Sabrimala, allowing the entry of women of menstrual age, or the famous day on Jallikat or bull taming festivals in South India. Even the dispute over the sharing of Kaveri river waters is yet to be settled despite multiple court orders. US President Donald Trump clashed with a reporter who questioned him about the migrant caravan at a post midterm election press briefing. The story has snowballed into a major controversy. But before we go there, let's listen in to that exchange that happened between the journalist and the U.S. president.
Thank you, Mr. President. I wanted to challenge you on one of the statements that you made in the tail end of the campaign. In the midterms.
Here we go.
If you don't mind, Mr. President, that this caravan was an invasion. As you know, Mr. President,
I consider it to be an invasion.
As you know, Mr. President, the caravan was not an invasion. It's a group of migrants moving up from Central America towards the border with the U.S.
Thank you for telling me that.
Why did you characterize it as such?
Because I consider it an invasion. You and I have a difference of opinion.
But do you think that you demonized immigrants in this election to try to keep them?
I want them to come into the country, but they have to come in legally. You know, they have to come in, Jim, through a process. I want it to be a process, and I want people to come in, and we need the people.
Your campaign.
Wait. You know why we need the people, don't you? Because we have hundreds of companies moving in. We need the people.
But your campaign had an ad showing migrants climbing over walls and so on.
That's true. But they weren't actors.
They're not going to be doing that.
They weren't actors. Well, no, it's true. Do you think they were actors? They weren't actors. They didn't come from Hollywood. Right. These were people. This was an actual, it happened a few days ago. And
they're hundreds of miles away, though. They're hundreds and hundreds of miles away. That's not an invasion.
Honestly, I think you should let me run the country. You run CNN.
All right.
And if you did it well, your ratings would be much better.
If I may ask one other question, Mr. President, if I may ask one other question, are you worried?
That's enough. That's enough.
Mr. President, I was going to ask one of the other folks.
That's enough.
Pardon me, ma'am.
Excuse me. That's enough.
Mr. President, I had one other question, if I may ask, on the Russia investigation. Are you concerned that you may have?
I'm not concerned about anything with the Russian investigation because it's a hoax. That's enough. Put down the mic.
Mr. President, are you worried about indictments coming down in this investigation?
Mr. President.
I'll tell you what, CNN should be ashamed of itself having you working for them. You are a rude, terrible person. You shouldn't be working for CNN. Go ahead.
I think that's unfair.
You're a very rude person. The way you treat Sarah Huckabee is horrible. And the way you treat other people are horrible. You shouldn't treat people that way. Go ahead. Go ahead, Peter. Go ahead.
In Jim's defense, I've traveled with him and watched him. He's a diligent reporter who busts.
Well, I'm not a big fan of yours either. So
I understand.
To be honest.
So let me ask you a question, if I can. You repeatedly said
you aren't the best,
Mr. President. You repeatedly over the course of the.
Just sit down, please. Well, when you report fake news, when you report fake news, which CNN does a lot, you are the enemy of the people. Go ahead.
India has announced its representation at World War I centenary ceremony in Paris. India's vice president will represent the country at the Grand Paris ceremony along with leaders of the other states. A statement from the Ministry of External Affairs said, and I quote, India was one of the largest contributors of soldiers during the First World War. India's participation at the Armistice Centenary ceremony will be a befitting tribute to the sacrifices made by these soldiers, underlining India's historical contribution to global peace and security.